Welcome to the Keeping It Positive podcast, presented by the Positive Inception, helping people become more positive and trying to make the world a better place, one episode at a time. And now here's your host, Ryan Benoit.
Hello, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Keeping It Positive. This episode is number 18. I can't believe it. It's going by so quick. Our special guest this week is Marty Bourgeois. We had so much fun, and he is such a tremendous human being. This episode was a little different. We talked a little bit about everything, and Marty is a very unique guy, and that's what makes him so amazing. And his laugh and his personality, and just being who he is, he's electric. He has a heart of gold, and you can really tell. When you first meet him, and when I first met him, it was through the store. Obviously, that's where I meet a lot of amazing people. But it was after my fire, and I kind of mentioned this in the podcast. We had a fire at the building a few years ago, and I was closed for 2.5 months because of smoke damage, different things like that. And shortly after, he walks in, and he wants to buy a bunch of gift cards to support me. And I'm the type of person that I don't like handouts, but and it wasn't really a handout. He just wanted to support and give back, and that's just the kind of heart he has, right? And to be able to help the community, and it wasn't only my store. He bought gift cards to Damascus and a few other places, and it just a testament of his character and how he is. He just wants to give back and help as many people as possible, and through that he's been coming in from time to time, and every time he comes, we always have the most interesting conversations. And I swear to God, last time he came in, we could have had a podcast just with the conversation that we had between the both of us, and just the way he composes himself, and his storytelling, and his perspective on life is truly amazing. We this episode we talk a little bit about tattooing, his love and passion for that, how he grew up, his interests and music and style of tattooing, and the art, and so much. And like that's why I wanted him on here, is because he's such an interesting person. Yeah, and what he does and how he carries himself is second to none. And we also dive into one of his biggest passions, and I think I don't know if I would ever do it. I'm pretty chicken when it comes to that stuff, but it's ghost hunting and the paranormal, and we talk a lot about that on this episode. To me, it's very fascinating, and it gives a different perspective for the podcast, and something a little different too. And hearing his passion for this, and hearing some of the stories, it gives you goosebumps. And it's so fun to listen to him. I can listen to him for hours. And even when we started the podcast, we talked a little bit, and after the podcast was loading, we had some more and more laughs. And this podcast is full of laughter and explicit language, but it was totally amazing, and such an amazing experience. And that's why I love doing this. And I think with Marty and our friendship will keep going, and I feel like it has begun a few years ago, but it just becomes stronger and stronger every time we see each other. I think he has that type of personality that people gravitate towards him, because he's such a good-hearted human being, and he has such a kind soul, and people see that, and he's trustworthy, and so on and so forth. And I really think that this episode is very unique, because he is such a unique and amazing human being. And I think everyone's going to enjoy this, and it's a different perspective, but it's an amazing one. And because Marty is truly amazing human being. So without further ado, episode number 18, and I hope you enjoy it. And this is going to be so much fun, and I'm already smiling ear to ear, and it's already been 13, 14 seconds.
I love this. It's a good start. It's a good sign, man. I appreciate this.
Well, thank you, Marty, for wanting to do this. And when I thought of another guest that I wanted to have on, you definitely popped in my head. And even though we haven't known each other for such a long time, it feels like a long time because every time you come into the store, we chat for hours, and every time you leave, I feel so much better. My heart is always so full of great energy, and you inspire me to be better and better all the time.
Wow. Well, thank you, because that's exactly how I feel about your brand, about how you work, how like every aspect of you, man. I was actually just telling, I was bragging today. I was like, I'm doing the Positive Inception podcast. This is going to be good. And the client that I was working with, she said, yeah, no, I know Ryan's a good guy. And I thought, I would pay big money just to have a private one-on-one session where Ryan swears or says, what I hate, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like you've got a great energy about you. You radiate, and I truly very inspiring. Your story, everything about you is inspiring me.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Very welcome. You appreciate, you deserve it.
I'm happy the feeling is definitely mutual, and the first time we actually met is it was like unforeseen circumstances after the fire happened in the strip mall, and this is just a story of a testament of who you are and how big of a heart you have, and we didn't even know each other, and you walked in my store like I want to buy $800 gift cards, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and he's like, I heard about everything that happened. I just want to support you. I want to support your brand and what you're doing, and I thought that was the most special thing. And the people who you gave the gift cards to, they came in and we talked a lot about you and all the amazing things you do and the kind of person that you are. I think just,
Thank you.
I think it's there's a saying, and it is the more the more you give, the more you get, right? And I think that's just an example of that, right? And it just shows a testament to your character and how you want to help your community grow and help people succeed.
Oh, and I find myself in a uh, very lucky situation where I've been supported by the people around me. I've been tattooing for over 21 years now, and I
Mm.
mean, if you talk to the first year or two worth of tattoos, that's a podcast all on its own, let me tell you. But getting to the point where I was at with my business, you know I hope that we won't get sued for this, but the line with uh, with great with sorry, wow, with great ability comes great responsibility. Those who are um, able should be looking down to smaller people, like not smaller people, but the people around them, the people a little bit below them, right?
Mm.
with
Yeah,
with that, you gotta pick up others, like like-minded people, and especially when it comes to business, right? um we little guys we got to watch out for each other. And personally, when I see people that have so either great product, a great service, or just I feel that they need to be recognized because you could see the effort. Like attracts like, and I truly feel that when you see somebody working as hard as you work, when you see somebody of merit, you like it. I don't know. For me, it breaks my heart to see them down on their luck. So that was I always kind of admired the brand from afar, but yeah, I was racking my mind over what to do, because I know in that position I would definitely I think I'm kind of like I don't like to ask for help, but at the end of the day, when somebody presents it out of nowhere, it's a blessing. So
yeah,
yeah.
and I think like when I think about that too is I think it's important to help the people around us, right? And for me, like I'm exactly like who you. I don't like asking for help, but when it does happen, it's greatly appreciated, right? and it's an opportunity to pay it forward too, right? And I think it's all about helping one another and like lift people up instead of lifting and instead of bringing people down. And we live
Yeah.
in a world nowadays where sometimes it can be a little more negative than we would like, right? And I think if we lift up people a little bit more and we encourage people and we help people in when they're in need, it truly makes the world a better place, right?
And
And
it's contagious.
mm,
It's very contagious, you know? I mean, even just opening the door for somebody saying, "Hey, I like your shoes, man." You know, like that person could be having the worst day ever. I've always thought, you know, like the next stranger you meet could potentially be your next best friend.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's like us, you know, and when we see each other, we always give each other like so many compliments, and I think that's what it's all about. But I think even in the type of business that we're in, like it's all about dealing with people, right, and building relationships and being interested in people and being there for one another because people give back so much to us, right, and it's important to do the same. And I think, like you were saying about the compliments, we don't know what people are going through. So that's why it's so important to be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be kind or to be positive or to help someone. And I think, like you said, we don't know what people are going through. And that happens to me sometimes in the store. People come in, and then the other day someone came in and then left and then came back and said like, the compliment you gave me just made my whole day, you know. And I thought
Love
she,
that.
she came back because something was wrong or something, but I was like, oh, that's so cool, you know. And you don't know the type of impact that you can have just
Exactly.
by being genuine and kind-hearted and different things like that. And I think it really goes a long way.
Mhm. Yep, I agree. I agree. And like you said, it costs nothing. It takes so little effort to be genuine.
Mm. And I guess with this whole podcast, to start this, I want to maybe talk a little bit about you, how you started everything, and with tattooing, your passion with tattooing. I've never had a you're the first tattoo artist on here, which is pretty special. And
Thank
I've,
you.
I've always been very fascinated with that. I don't have any tattoos of myself because I'm very jumpy and I'm very skittish and I jump at like a little mosquito bite. So I don't think it would it
Oh
would
no, you know, it's, you know, I hate to say he's passed away, but I got a great many hours of pleasure tattooing this one fellow. His name is Blaine. I miss him. He had Parkinson's, and let me tell you, when he came in and says, "I want a Canada flag on my arm," and then came back and said, "I want the flag of Nova Scotia," I thought, oh, all these straight lines. So you know what, man? I am used to anybody who will, you know, laugh, talk with their hands, jiggle in the chair. Ryan, I got you, buddy. We'll take care of you. If that ever crosses your mind, I would really feel privileged to tattoo you.
I would be covered if it didn't hurt. I would be like I would definitely have two arm sleeves. I'd love to look. I think that it's so cool, and
Absolutely.
it like for the most part it shares a story, right? And it's art, and then you're like a walking billboard, and I think it's truly special. Every piece tells a story, right? And
Absolutely.
sometimes it's a silly story that or maybe a drunken story that turns into something or something even more profound, right? And sentimental. So I think the whole industry, the whole tattoo idea, I think it's truly awesome and fascinating.
Absolutely. It's got some depth. It's multi-layered, and I mean it spans so many decades, right?
Mhm.
Decades is silly. I mean, they've found mummies with, you know, thousands and thousands of year old tattoos on them. So yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
It's
How, how did you like get inspired in with tattoo and being a tattoo artist?
so the short answer to that is punk rock. So the long answer to that is I always grew up, you know, drawing, artistic. I was always kind of interested in the more creative side of things, and eventually that kind of progressed. As I was growing up, I was getting into all sorts of things that kind of felt a little against the grain to me. By the time I was 13, the ladies at the movie store knew me as the horror movie kid. I started listening to punk rock. I started seeing like the alternative to life. The people that were like not with society, they were going against their counterculture.
Mhm.
So, I started listening to a lot of punk rock and heavy metal, and a lot of my punk rock heroes were just really super heavily tattooed. I wanted a tattoo after a while, and getting in the chair, getting tattooed, I asked the very first artist who needled me up. He explained to me how to get into tattooing, and after that, it never left my mind. And probably within, I don't know, 3 years of that, I found an open door.
Nice. So I know you said you always drew and stuff as a kid, but how did that translate to being a tattoo artist?
I mean, when I was a kid, you start off with pencils or crayons or markers or whatever, and it evolves, right? Eventually, you get into paintbrushes, and you start seeing what you can do, what different tools have to offer, right? What different mediums have to offer. And eventually, again, I think it was sort of like, I want to say it was like the social aspect of tattooing, because again, when I was, this 16-year-old kid buying tattoo magazines, like tattoos were just on the cusp of becoming something that was a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more accessible, and just a touch more refined, right? Like I came into like learning and collecting tattoos in an era where it was still just a little bit taboo. Like if you had a tattoo, maybe you were not somebody to borrow money from. You know what I mean? And
Kind of like frowned upon?
frowned upon, or like the stereotypes were very prevalent. Like, I don't know, man, that he's wearing all black and he's got chains hanging off his wallet. He's got a tattoo on his hand. Maybe don't go ask him for a lighter for your cigarette. You know what I mean? And it was all unfounded. But I think that like the social aspect, because I've always felt that there's two types of people who get tattooed: those who want to belong somewhere, or those who want to further themselves from a society, which is kind of funny because either way you ended up in a society, right? You either ended up with the normies or you ended up with, the weirdos and the freaks. But that really intrigued me. I found that creativity that I had, I was like, because I was always really into like, Mad Magazine and like, these weird comics, and, other kids were reading Spider-Man and Superman, and I was reading Powdered Toast Man and Ren and Stimpy comics and a lot of the oddball stuff. So a lot of the art that I was exposed to, through books and film, it kind of became like a weird little, I don't know, like almost like a social experiment, like I would love to do art, but I would love to, kind of paint people in that, like, I don't know, there's something about that counterculture weirdo society that really, because I was a quiet kid, I was kind of an outsider. I mean, not that I wasn't popular, it's just like everybody knew me and was like, yeah, he doesn't play baseball, he likes to read, so well, let's just leave him alone, whatever. So that I found kind of a voice, I guess, for my creativity through those weird means.
And I think that's something really good to mention, like being different, being unique, and embracing your differences, right? And I think that's something truly important to mention, because nowadays with social media, everyone compares to one another, and when you see on social media, it's like a highlight reel of your life, and it might not even be reality, right? And I think embracing who you are and really loving yourself, and not caring what anyone else thinks. And maybe back in the day, it might have happened where people thought you were different because you would like to read different comments, or you would dress differently, or like how did that how did you like how did that help you like not care about what everyone thought and like do your own thing. Like what uh,
Mhm.
you have a hard time uh, like do like going against the grain and have a hard time with maybe not bullying, but people treating you differently. And how did you deal with that?
Um, uh, yeah, yeah, that's it's a long, rich history there. Eventually, because it's something that I've struggled with my entire life, and I'm not gonna lie, I still do. Um, but things like that got easier. First of all, when I found my people, when I found my social circle, when I found the people that I knew that I could trust, I could be around, I could be myself. They would encourage me to be myself, and they were themselves around me. They're genuine. They were transparent, right?
Mhm.
Everything was honest and on the level. There was no judgment. If anybody said like, "Hey, you're being a little weird for the sake of being weird," but that's okay. Just remember that we're all here doing the same thing. Don't Sometimes I think that I had to be reminded to tone it down. Like, dude, you're an outsider. That's fine, but you're not an outsider when you're in a circle of outsiders.
Yeah.
And then eventually, as I got older, I started toying with the idea of duality, where okay, so if society looks at me and says, "This guy's got tattoos on his hands, his face. Well, okay, he's weird. We're out. Maybe he's dangerous." And I have had people say that. They're like, "Yeah, you come off a little spooky, man. You're like a scary guy." I'm thinking, okay. So I started toying with that. There was for a very long time. I was working in a three-piece suit. I really like the idea of being able to kind of toy with the idea, like, okay, wait a minute. This guy is talking about horror movies and ghost hunting, and his tattoos. And I don't know how to take him, but like, he doesn't look homeless. He doesn't dress like he's going to rob me. He looks like the guy that's going to get robbed because those are $400 shoes. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I started toying with the duality, and still to this day, I truly enjoy it when somebody, like, say I'm at the grocery store or something, and somebody bumps into me and they're like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, crack a joke like, hey, man, I wear glasses. I'm half blind too. And then they're kind of like, oh, okay. So I don't have to worry about getting punched or screamed at by this guy that looks like he wants to rob me for a nickel.
But it's all about like I think it's like not judging a book by its cover, right? And you are the most loving guy, and to a lot of people that have that different perception of you, they're missing out, right? And they're missing out on the guy that they should really like. I think never judge a book by its cover and really get to know people, right?
Yep.
And that's the unfortunate part about society. We see someone and we have an image portrayed right away, and that shouldn't be the case. Get to know people, get out of your own head, be interested in people, and really get to know the inside. It's what the like, and like I think this is a really good example of embracing who you are and surrounding yourself with the right type of people, and I think when you're able to do that, you're able to be your true self, right? And
Yes.
able to be your weird self without being judged, without being criticized or anything like that. And I think that's something that we should all strive to be a little bit more, not to judge people and accept people for who they are. Like everyone is special and unique in their own way, and that's what
Mhm.
makes life so great. Because if everyone was the same, life would be so boring.
Oh, there'd be no point in getting to know everybody. You know three people, you know them all. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's why I've always kind of thought, like the next person you meet could potentially be your next best friend. And I think it's tough because sometimes you're going to learn that you're very wrong and that guy actually is just a mean grump. And, but that's the trick, okay, fine. I tried to be nice to somebody, tried to learn about them, and it turns out that they're not my taste. Cool. Add
yeah,
that to the knowledge. You now know that these kinds of people are not your people.
exactly. And it's all a learning experience. with
Mhm.
everything. And I know you were like like when you were talking about this, to put a smile on my face with the punk rock and stuff. Like, what were your favorite kind of bands? Like, my favorite band of all time is Blink-182, and I love them, and I've seen them 3 times in concert. They're my absolute favorite.
Nice.
What are some bands that you kind of like?
So I grew up with punk rock. I want to say it was 1990. Woof, blah, blah, blah. I want to say between 94 and 96. So
Oh,
I had a buddy who back in the day, and go easy on me here. He had a subscription to Columbia House. I don't know if you remember getting these little flyers in the mail, and it'd be like, buy 10 CDs, get the 11th for a penny. And he would just he would just buy these tapes and these CDs, and he would make me these mixtapes. So I
yeah.
was getting a lot of like I feel it's like a lot of like the East Bay punk scene. So like Rancid, first and
Oh,
foremost, top of my list. You know, Rancid, No Effects, Social Distortion, later on Bad Religion, like these like some of these bands, again, you would look at them and be like, that guy's hair is going to fall out in 10 years if he keeps using school glue in his mohawk. But that was the
yeah.
way, right? I remember seeing Mike Ness in one of the Social Distortion videos, and he's rocking all this old Gretsch guitar, and he's wearing this white tank top, and he's like hair slicked back, it's shiny. I don't know how they even shot that without a glare, and he's got the gold tooth, and he just tattoos everywhere, and he's just like rocking out, and I was like, that energy, I want that. That is where I want to be in life. So yeah, that was I got a little bit into like ska and stuff like that too, because it made a comeback. No Doubt was still a punk band when I found them. Blink
Yeah.
182, Dude Ranch had just come out, great album. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all over the place.
I was born in '93, so my oldest brother is 5 years older, so I would always listen to what he listens to and all that
Siblings
stuff.
are good for that. I love that.
Yeah, and even my middle brother too. We always listen to the same kind of music. So yeah, I think, and also like Blink was always like funny, immature, like, and then they're like the kids that would get kicked out of school, you know,
Yeah,
and all like just the badasses.
yeah, it was fun. Punk rock could either be like that, really, politically driven, like down with the man and fuck the system, or it could be like, your mom's boobs. Yeah, it could be all farts and booger jokes. It was a great little landscape. If you weren't afraid to like to explore it, punk rock was the place to be. And again, it's another subculture where people were either like really mean and hard nosed, or they were like, okay, cool, so you have purple hair and 18 nose rings. I got a spare cigarette. You want to hang around and smoke? You know what I mean? Like, I love that about punk rock.
That's fair cigarette.
Yeah, fucking hang out, spray paint on the walls, man. Nobody lives here. Let's do it.
Did you were you in a really big like skateboarding scene? Were you a skateboarder?
I was, I liked the skateboarding scene. I was terrible at skateboarding. There's some gnarly scars under some of these tattoos because I sucked. I was not good. And it's too bad, right? Because I loved like the graphics on skateboards. Some of these companies were really, really killing it, man. My entire back piece is actually from a Creature skateboard.
No.
And I love that scene, the music, the people, as soon as I could, man, I was buying Dickies shorts and Airwalks.
Yeah.
I was all about it. But as soon as I got on that board, bam, I was ripping skin off the pads of my hands. My elbows look like leprosy. Yeah, I was not good at it.
Because I feel like punk rock and skateboarding and it kind of goes hand in hand.
Hand in hand, yeah.
It's part of that culture too. And did you because you were into art and stuff? Did you like design? Like, would you like to design your own skateboards like back in the day, and when you were that age?
Mm, uh, I'd probably do it now, but back then, you know what? Back then, if somebody said, "Here, let me show you how to like paint on board," I probably would have came up with like the stupidest, most offensive thing. You know what I mean? Like I would have tried to make like guts or zombies eating cats. I don't know. I would have came up. I was I needed to chill, but you know what? I think that's part of being a teenager, right? Like you just go full throttle, all gas, no brakes, and no idea who you're going to offend, and no, no ability to read the room. Like, dude, it's not in front of your grandmother who's super hardcore Catholic that you want to be playing choking victim. Like that's not gonna go over well. But you were like, fuck you, family dinner. I'm here.
Just going against the grain.
Going straight to your room because you're grounded for saying the F word in front of your grandmother. Yeah.
But that's what it is, all part of growing up, right? And learning new things and maybe learning what to do, what not to do in that case. But I wanted to kind of ask too, like what made you do the transition from like pencils and paintbrushes to a tattoo gun?
So I'm the kind of person where I think a lot of people feel like they don't necessarily enjoy failure. Some of us take it a lot harder than others, right? So when I try to do anything, I try to be as well read on the subject as possible. So when I started looking up, tattoos and how to get them and how to do them and blah blah blah, I was also reading books, like about how they were doing in Polynesia or how the Hori masters were doing it in Japan all those years ago, right? So my transition into tattooing was not only trying to build on who I was, but also be part of something bigger. Tattooing has been in the Americas since the very, very early or very, very late 1800s. Okay, it was brought over by sailors. Sailors used to bring back mementos all the time. Sometimes they'd show up with a monkey. Sometimes they'd show up with stuff that they picked up in the islands, and sometimes they would come back with tattoos. So these tattoos that they were getting from the Orient, we're supposed to be using that word anymore, but from spots in Asia. They're bringing back these tattoos, and it was eventually picked up in the Americas. So for me, it was not only to be part of scene, but also part of like a little bit of a history. I like the idea of permanence. I think the other thing that picked me up was the fact that was there, man. Like you could be the greatest graffiti artist if some jerk decides to bomb over your tag, it's gone. Or, if the property manager decides, hey, that's my building, stop doing that, and they paint over your stuff, like it's gone. Tattoos, you're going to have to work long and hard to get rid of it, or you got to disappear. The canvas has to expire, for lack of a better word. So I really like that idea that I could reach people in that way. But again, the history was just really cool. And I still, to this day, I highly recommend to anybody who has even the slightest interest in tattoos. You want a good read? Pick up a biography written by any tattoo artist. You'll learn some stuff you probably didn't think was possible. It sounds like complete fiction, but I love hearing the histories of guys tattooing from the 30s and 40s and even up until recently the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
It's nuts. That's all. Let's go ahead.
You probably see like a whole different style of tattooing as well, right?
It changes. A lot of people say it's like trends, and I tend to agree. Like some things will stick around for a couple of years, and then they'll kind of taper off. They don't really go away, but they taper off. Like I said, over 20 years ago, I was tattooing a lot of tribal armbands and little kanji symbols. Not mad about it. but it's kind of weird because every once in a while it tries to make a comeback. So stuff like that can be cyclical. Well, we know that fashion is cyclical.
Mhm.
So
I was just mentioning that.
yeah,
like,
tattooing is the same.
Like all styles come back, right? And it's funny because my mom, she still has like her outfits from high school, and now they're back in style.
It was funny. I used to go to school, I was a kid, and people were like, "Ooh, this nerd, he's wearing a He-Man t-shirt, like He-Man, ha ha." Now, if you have a He-Man shirt, like, oh, I haven't seen those in years, man. High five. Like, was like places like Zoomies and like West 49, they were selling like old cartoon characters on like a whatever brand of skateboard company, and I'm like, like I'm seeing Adventure Time. Like Adventure Time's not old, but I'm seeing Adventure Time characters on skateboards. I'm like, yeah, at one point it would have been like, oh, this nerd, he's looking at cartoons. Oh, okay, give me your lunch money. Now it's like, yo, that's an $80 t-shirt, and it's got Finn the Human on it. Damn, this guy's down. What?
Yeah. It's so weird. Like one day you're a loser, one day you're a hero.
You're top of the pile, and you don't know. Like, again, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm like, okay, what day is this? Because I think today I'm a loser.
Yeah. No, you're definitely not.
Thank you.
And I think it's all about kind of embracing, like what we kind of talked about, right? Like,
Lean into it.
important to wear what you want to wear, and I think it's an expression of who you are too, right? And that's another thing about tattooing is like you have tattoos and it expresses your personality maybe or who you are or what is really important to you, and then like a lot of that is inside you, but with tattooing, that's probably one of your funnest parts of your job. It expresses someone else, right? It expresses who they are as a person and then you can see it on the outside too.
Absolutely. Every tattoo tells a story, whether it's, I'm commemorating a loved one, or I'm reliving a moment in my life, or it's just expressing your love of a certain aesthetic, right? I mean, I got a panther head on my leg. I never killed a panther. I never went panther hunting. I don't go to zoos and ask to open the cage and pet the panthers. But it speaks to an aesthetic. You're the kind of guy that just, that's a good panther tattoo, man. You know, you can tell a lot by a person from their tattoos, and I mean that's what they should do. They tell stories. They allow you, like you said. In my job, I do. That's what I love the most. I mean, the art is great, but it's reaching people and allowing the inner person to come out,
Mhm.
and speak. So yeah, absolutely love that. That's a very it's a very special thing that my clients allow me to do is work with them on such a personal level. I mean, if I put on a pair of gloves and try to touch your face, you'd probably like call 911, right? But at a tattoo shop, you'd give me money.
Yeah,
you know,
they paid it.
there's a lot of memes going around saying like your tattoo artist is the only person that you'll ever trust with a pair of gloves and Vaseline. It's a bit crass, but I mean, my job is to convince you to sit down, bleed for a little while, leave with something permanent that, let's face it, I may or may not mess up. Like, we're human, right? You blink too hard, sometimes the lines go crooked. But yeah, and after that, you're going to give me hundreds of dollars, and you come back every so often. Wow, I don't know what lottery I hit, man, but I hope they never find where the horseshoe is hidden in my body, because I feel very blessed, very lucky to be in that position.
Do you have
It's incredible.
do you have a horseshoe tattooed on you?
I do have a horseshoe tattoo. It's under the panther. I'm not even joking. It's under the panther. Yeah.
The Panthers are nosy to find it.
Hey, I mean, he's gonna need a road map. There's a lot of tattoos here.
But like speaking of like you're talking about how special it is to have people like come back and trust you with art. That's something permanent, right? Is there like a special like piece or like a memory that really resonated with you? Like like a piece that really stood out in your career so far that you've done?
So I've always said my biggest regret is not having written a daily diary, because there are so many of those stories that I wish I could remember. In 20 plus years, yeah, I think I've earned the right to forget a couple of them. But yes, there are, and I mean, some of them have marked me for the best reasons. Some of them a little less. I had one client. She came from a little bit of a rough situation, and I could tell that right off the hop with her. And she asked me to do a really simple tattoo, just some lettering on the back of her leg. And I said, yeah, sure, that'll get done quick. What would you like? And Ryan was crushing, man. She wanted the words, "Life doesn't care if you have a plan." And I thought, wow, that is sadly really true, right? And I really hope that wherever that young girl is now, she's doing well, because to make that statement, to wear it proudly on her skin, that's a heavy reminder.
Mm-hmm.
So that had an impact. But on the lighter side, I again would love to know where this guy is in life. I really hope this gentleman is doing well, but got to be at least 18, 19 years ago. I had a fellow come in and he says, "I have a tattoo on my right hand, and I'd like you to replicate it on my left hand with a small variation." I said, "Okay, sure. What is it?" He said, "Well, when I was 50, I got this tattoo on my right hand." And my jaw hit the floor because I thought he was in his 40s. And he said, "When I was 50, I got this tattoo." I was like, "Wow, dude, you're taking good care of yourself." And he's like, 10 years later, I'm now 60. I was like, "What?" He says, "I want you to replicate this tattoo because I still feel the same way about it." And I said, "Okay." And he showed me, and this was so great. I'd love to run into this guy again. On his right hand, he had a heart that said, "I like me." And 10 years later, so as I met him, he wanted me to replicate the heart on the other hand, only this time he wanted to say, "I still like me." But we're knee deep in an era of divorce, plastic surgery, of, influencers hadn't started up yet. So like, all these people, the media telling you how to be and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at this guy, and he told me some cool stories about going on safari and doing all this stuff. But this guy at the age of 60 was able to look himself in the mirror and be like, yeah, I like me, without being vain, but confident in saying, "I like me." Stuck with me, man. Got to be over 18 years since that tattoo, and that story stuck out.
And I think like that kind of gives me goosebumps, right? And I think it's so important to like yourself,
Yeah.
and
It's an uphill battle,
right?
Yeah.
It is a battle, and I think the attitude of gratitude and being grateful for what we have and who we have in our lives. And I think if we wake up every day and say like how grateful we are to have what we have and be who we are, rather than thinking of all the negative things. And if we think of it like how we think is how we're gonna act, right? And how how we're gonna act is gonna create our habits, right? And if we always think about the negative things or what's going on and like bad things, that's how we're gonna get stuck in it. That stuff is gonna keep coming. It's all about like frequencies, right? And thinking about the negative things that are gonna keep happening, rather than if you always try to think positive, and like your perspective drives your performance. Trying to be having a good perspective on everything, and really loving yourself and loving your differences, right? I think it makes life a little bit easier for sure.
Yeah. It's yeah. If there are any, awkward teenagers out there that feel bad about them watching this, I hope that they're picking up on this, because that's exactly what it is. The quality of your thoughts will dictate the quality of your life. And it's scary, to think how vicious a cycle it is to get caught in negativity. It sucks. It really needs, sometimes you really need outside help to snap you out of it and show you like how destructive it can be.
Do you have any tips that kind of help you stay positive?
I love the writings of Marcus Aurelius. I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy, and I've got one book, if I can pitch it. It's called The Daily Stoic, and it's 1 page a day. Just read 1 page a day, and it just teaches you, the subtle art of letting go and not letting certain thoughts invade your life, and not letting certain people have access to your energy. If we surround ourselves with negative people or negative thoughts, it's a downward spiral. And I'm not gonna lie, therapy is a really good thing. Okay, that is not a 4-letter word. Anybody who's even considering it, find a way, man. Because sometimes, sometimes it's your friends that are going to help you. Sometimes it's a random stranger that's going to help you. But sometimes you need a good professional to say, "Hey, buddy, give your inner child a hug," because I think there's some deep-rooted issues. Little things like that. But yeah, I've got a good group around me. I've had the chance to learn good lessons, and yeah, I've got good books, so that keeps me on the straight and narrow.
And I think it's always about like continuous learning, right? We're always adapting. We're always trying to learn and trying to get better. And I think that's what has to do with like in life itself or in business to always try to work on your craft and
it's upkeep. Everything is upkeep. Even when things are good, maybe just peek your head in the book and remind yourself of what you learned last week or last month or last year.
And when you think about that too, is like tattoo is always evolving, and it's always good to go back to the roads. And when I think about tattooing and different things like that, like what fascinates me is like the originating of tattoo, like when it comes to like sailors and traditional tattoo art and the sea and all that stuff. And like I've read a few things about that, and it's like it's so fascinating. And now look at and the cool thing about tattoo is what we kind of chatted about before when we first started this podcast. Is like at first it was like tattoo, like it was like a little bit tattoo, a little bit it wasn't as popular. But now like the cool, like you see those like back in the day when there was a lot of commercials where when it was getting more accepted, like doctors, they have their doctor coat on, but and then they're covered in tattoos. And when they take it off, and it just goes to show like express yourself, and if you want to put something on your body, do it. Love your body for what it is. It's yours. Right? Embrace it and be who you are, and be unique, and don't be afraid to shine in your own way.
Absolutely. And yeah, every time we're able to do that, I know for me it's a blessing. Even if you get some tattoo, I'm not going to blame them for it. Some tattoo artists get a little tired at the end of their career. They get a little cranky and they're like, "Oh man, I gotta do another butterfly." Like, come on, man, can I do something cool? But I let go of that very quickly. I mean, you're like I said, you're helping somebody, wear their heart on their sleeve.
And like the work that you do is permanent forever, and that's something cool to think about. Like you are part of them, like a little part of them, like for the rest of their life, which is something really cool to think about.
Well, especially because, and I mean, you're living proof of this. At the end of the day, what I do is a service, but on your end, it's a purchase, right? Just like when somebody comes in and buys a sweater or whatever.
Yeah.
These days, yes, it's about the product. Make sure you're buying a proper product. But where I find a lot of people excel is when the product comes with a really great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like for you, I mean, it could be 12 midnight, in middle of December, and your shop would still radiate light. You know what I mean? It just has a good feel. You're a beacon of that. Obviously the true representation of the brand, and I love that about you. For tattoo artists, I've seen some world-class art. I mean, award-winning tattoo artists who absolute jerks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't care if they were tattooing for free that day. I wouldn't want to sit 5 minutes with them because they'd be on a political rant or they'd be pissed about their ex-wife or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I've actually gone to some artists who I was like, this tattoo's going to be a little rocky. But the fact that I get to sit down with them, that is what puts me in their chair. That's what's going to make me tip. That's what's going to make me come back. Even if the first tattoo's a little janky, whatever. I get to spend time with somebody and create something lasting on my skin. But every time somebody goes, hey, cool panther, I'll be like, it is. Thank you. And you know what? The guy who did it, let me tell you, that day, he blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Love that. You know, because I'm sure you've heard, like, people come in, buy a shirt, and by the time they leave, they forgot what they bought because they had fun talking to you for a half hour, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about in business. It's about building relationships and creating stories, right? And for me, it's more than just clothes. It's a message. It's a lifestyle. It's a way to live. It's a thought process, right? And like you too, it's more than just tattoo. It's about building a rapport with those people and really remembering things about them and making people feel like they matter. And I think that's the one thing. Like when they sit in your chair, like they matter to you, and you're grateful to have them there, right? And I wanted to kind of transition to that, having your own business and talking a little bit about that, and maybe some of your lessons that you learned in business that has kind of helped you where you are today.
So one thing that I've learned, and I mean, I take this lightly, it's with a grain of salt. I actually kind of learned this within, the last little while. If I could give out any advice, it's be careful about belonging to a business or a group of peers, because some of these things can be fleeting, right? Businesses open and close. Uh, Cohorts come and go. That's life. It's a cycle. And in business, it's very important, especially in my business, because there's a lot. We come from some pretty humble origins. So some of us really have a hard time with, oh well, that guy that I worked with, now owns a shop. Well, yeah, that's business. Don't feel like I had an employee open a shop and what a piece of crap. Be careful when you associate to a business, a place. I've worked at a lot of great shops. I've worked at some shops that I rather don't talk about, but I've worked at a lot of great shops. And leaving there myself, especially when I left to open my own business, I really tried to leave that last shop as kindly and as like in a position to help and make sure that it was known that it was not out of disrespect. It wasn't a vindictive thing. When leaving a group or a business that you've associated with, just transition out. That's something that I think people can kind of apply to their own situation. The other thing that I would strongly recommend, though, as far as being in business, listen, I feel like this has been said a lot in Hollywood. Don't read the comments section. Social media is great. Even interpersonal relationships, great. It's awesome. But listen, in the smallest business will get talked about, and for every 10 people that like you, there's 100 people that don't like you, and they don't know why, but they do, and they sometimes speak the loudest. They speak unprovoked. But you know what? If you're going to get into any kind of business, focus, tunnel vision, focus on the good, focus on what you're doing, giving back, and don't read the comments, man. Just don't read them.
And the thing that kind of touch on both those things is like when you said sometimes you have workers that opened up their own business, or you did that and went on your own. But like I think instead of being envious of people, like be encouraging, right? And be happy for them and let them do their own thing, And
That's right. They're on the path.
Yeah, so people have their own path, and you gotta try something, because if you don't try something, you won't know if it's that. It might be the best thing that's ever happened, and it might give you a redirection to doing something totally different, right? And I think, and then in regards to um, not reading the comments, a lot of people on social media, like, they don't know what people are going through, right? And I think it's kind of like we talked about before. Like, I think it's important just to be kind and run your own race, and don't worry about what other people say. Like, you can't control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it, right? And
Absolutely, yes.
if you're not going to take advice from them, why take criticism, or why take negative feedback, right? And I think that's something important to mention too. Is like, it takes a lot to be able to start a business and do your own thing. And as you know, how long have you been in business for?
So I've owned Studio 613 now since January 5th or 4th, uh, January of 2015.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, there
yeah,
you go.
yeah. So yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, man. Even when things are going good, a lot of sleepless nights. A
Well,
lot of build up. You're like, holy crap! I don't have anybody to to remind me to do this, or like I'm on my own. If this goes to hell, there's only one person to blame, and that's me. So yeah, a
I
lot
I
of good.
I kind of have that too. It's like there's no backup plan, right? And this is what I love to do. But like, a lot of people say, like, why do you work so much? It's like, well, I don't have a choice. And business is funny because there's so many great things about it, but there's some, like that you feel lonely. Even if I talk to people every day, like, doing my own thing, making sure everything is run smoothly, like, not a lot of people understand, like, the mental side of things. Like, if I screw up, it's on me. If I do good, it's on me. And there's so much pressure on a day-to-day basis. And like, oh, I forgot to do this order. Oh, I forgot about this person. It's like, or or you try to work with people or trust people, and it doesn't work out the way you want it to. Or like, yeah, I don't know, like an example, like, hire like a social media company, and then they're just absolute shit, and then you waste all this money. It's like, I could have did this myself, but I don't have time to do it myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could have time if I stopped sleeping and eating. Yeah, yeah. I feel you there. I actually very early on, when I started to pick up employees, I also started to learn not to micromanage. And I felt bad that I was like, I look back now, I'm like, but little things like that, you learn along the way. It's yeah, this is your baby. You don't want to sink the ship. But again, you can't be an absolute psychopath and be like, why aren't you working? You're on the clock, whatever.
Yeah,
There's a lot of pitfalls in business, and it's hard for the people that aren't business owners to. Well, it's not necessarily hard, but it takes a certain degree of understanding to really pick up what owning a small business is. There's a lot of hurdles.
oh, for sure. And that's why I love talking to, like, other business people, because not a lot of people understand, which is, and it's like we have this little chat right now, and it's like, in my head, it's like, I know exactly, he knows exactly what I go through,
Yeah, yeah. They ought to they ought to start making like specialty mattresses and pillows for people like us, like business owners. Are you not sleeping? Here's a special, you know what I mean? Like, it's a special breed of human who's like, wow, I just worked 16 hours at my business, even though the thing's only open for 8,
Yeah.
and you're laying in bed like, I'm not going to sleep for another 2 hours because I know I'm doing taxes in my head.
And exactly, and like sometimes you're not doing anything, and you feel like it, or
Yeah, I'm not at work, so I must be lazy. You know what I mean? Yeah. How
yeah,
dare you take a day off?
or like, I'm working so hard and I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. It just, like, it really, it screws up your mind a little bit, right? But you gotta also, like what we talked about, be grateful for what we have, and remember what we've accomplished, and hopefully that kind of keeps us going. But I wanted to kind of, we're passionate about business, but I wanted to transition into one of your other passions, ghost hunting. And
Yep. Yep. I am a big old nerd. Okay, listen. Some tattoo artists, they're into sports. Like I know some of them are big into like off-roading and stuff like that. Really very hardcore manly things. Yeah, no, I like watching horror movies and reading books. And when I'm not doing that and I get the chance, yeah, I am a ghost hunter.
How did all that come about? Like your interest with ghost hunting and how like the first steps of it, I guess. I am generally so intrigued. Like I know you came by the store the other day. We talked about this for like an hour, but I think it's so fascinating. And one of my best friends, Val, I gave her your information and you guys connected. And she's like, "Oh, so awesome! He told me about this. I was like, "Yeah, that's Marty. He's the man." And she's like,
Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome.
She's like, "I'm so excited for this podcast because I told her I'm gonna ask him about this and this and this." He's like, "Oh, I can't wait." But yeah, exactly. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this and how all this comes about and like, yeah, I find it's the most fascinating thing.
Okay, well, it's a time, man. So here's the thing. Again, like I explained earlier, I grew up a bit creepy, like I grew up in the 80s, so I had, Ghostbusters and I had Gremlins and, just all sorts of really got Addams Family, all the really kind of entry level, like, baby's first goth kit, So, I grew up around stuff that was weird like that. And, my mother very early on taught me about reading, reading, you can travel with reading. Books are the best. And I think it was just her way of saying, get out from in front of the TV and stop rotting your brain. So I started reading a lot. And again, growing up in the 80s with these fantastic storytellers like Jim Henson and stuff like that, I was always into the fantastic elves and wizards and dragons. And eventually that transitioned into, ghosts and aliens and cryptids and Bigfoot. What does the Loch Ness Monster really look like? I want to see a picture of the Loch Ness Monster. And I grew up with that. And ghost hunting, every kid on Halloween or every teenager on Halloween wants to play with a Ouija board or go to a graveyard, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's always like a little phase that we all go through. But for me, the phase was always there. It was never like, oh yeah, I remember that one summer where I was into ghosts, whatever. No, for me it was just, this is scary as hell, and it's intriguing. And the more I read about it and the more I got into it, I realized that like it's a pseudoscience, but it's still something that can be studied. If you really peel back all the layers of nerdy pop culture stuff, it's kind of scientific and it's an investigation. You're collecting information to try and further an experience that you're having. So ghost hunting was always kind of like just a dream, because that's the other thing in life. Like so many people are like, oh, how cool would it be to go to this concert, see this band live? Guy, thousands of people every year go see that band. Buy some tickets, go see the band, right?
Yeah.
But with ghost hunting, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna roll up to an abandoned house, hope the hell it's haunted. Oh, even if it was, what do I do? What do I do? I just like, hey, y'all dead in there? Like, what do you do, right? You get like ghosts aren't just gonna be like, fuck off, we're sleeping. Like it doesn't. Oh, sorry, boo. So, it was something. How did I stumble upon that? I don't know. I think we were just looking for something creepy to do, and we just said, okay, nuts to this. Let's go on the internet. And we found ghost walks. Most cities have ghost walks. And ghost walks, and whether it's a ghost walk or it's like a haunted history kind of thing, where they're not only telling you, like, they're taking you around town. You're like, okay, well, this building here, that dude went nuts and killed a bunch of people, or there was a tragic so and so here, and now there's a ghost there. So these ghost walks were a lot of fun, and it's history, which is really neat.
Mhm.
I've always really enjoyed the ghost walks in Ottawa. I highly recommend them to anybody who's in Ottawa, just kind of looking for stuff. The ones in Toronto are great too. You learn a lot about history, but that wasn't enough. That's okay. Cool. We talked about them. We pointed out the house. Open the door. Let's go. And eventually, I found a company. Great group of guys. Phantoms of Yore. If anybody's looking for any kind of experience, look them up. Phantoms of Yore. They're out in Ottawa. They offered, we'll call them experiences, because they're not tours, but it's really neat what they do. Because what they said to us, so they have a permission, which anybody looking to do any kind of ghost hunting, permission is key. Okay, do not break into a building that's been boarded up and just start messing around. You could be inhaling asbestos. You could be falling through the floors. Okay, very dangerous. These guys had permissions from places that had a reputation for being haunted. They would go in, they would do investigations, and they would come up with, we'll call it proof. Okay, and then they set it up so that if you go on their website, you can book a time. You're grouped with usually about 6 to 10 people, depending on how big of a site you're hunting.
Mhm.
They give you the history of the building. They give you the history of some of the people that you might be looking for. They then show you the footage that they've caught, where and how they've caught it. And then after that, they give you a crash course on how to use the equipment. And then they launch you in the dark for usually about 3 or 4 hours. And they're like, here's a handy cam, here's a K2 meter, here's a little cat ball, here's a REM pod, nighty night. And you're hunting all by yourself. It's not somebody holding your hand being like, okay, now around this corner you'll notice. No, like go find, go, like, they'll give you tips and tell you stuff. It's the best way. It's the best way. It's a good foot in the door. I've had so many great adventures with these guys. I feel very blessed because now we're kind of the point where, like, at first it was like, oh, you're the kids from Sudbury, aren't you? So now they're like, oh, hey, Marty, what's going on, buddy? Like, they know me, like they send me birthday wishes on my birthday, like stuff like that, So yeah, the long story short, I believed that I could do it and went looking and found the proof that I could do it.
And I think that's a good thing in life in general, right? If you believe that you want to do something and you believe in yourself, and no matter what the idea is, no matter how preposterous it could be to someone else, if you truly believe in your heart that you want to do something and you can achieve it, you just gotta like obviously believe in yourself and do the right steps to kind of make it happen, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the craziest experiences or memorable experiences that like chilling experiences that you've had?
Chilling stories, man. So one of my favorite stories, because I love this stuff, but like tattoos, I still get nervous when I get tattooed. Okay, I've been tattooed probably by about 60 different artists, and I still get nervous when I get tattooed. Ghost hunting is the same thing. I could do this for another 20 years, and I guarantee there'll never be a time where I'm like, whatever, it's a house, let's go. No, every time it's nerve-wracking. I have the most fun in prisons. I've hunted a few. I've hunted 3. So my most chilling story was the prison. It's just a little outside of Ottawa, about 45 minutes. A small town called Lorignal. So this prison in Lorignal was built in the 1800s, and so we're talking about a time where they used some kind of less than sensitive terminology. Okay, so there was one woman that they considered a lunatic, which is not nice, but she was really hell bent on suicide.
Okay.
And so they had her on lockdown a lot. And her name was Ann Leedy, if I'm not mistaken. Anne sadly finished the job with a piece of string. A piece of string, Ryan. She tied a piece of string around her neck until she succumbed. Okay, that is hardcore.
Yeah.
That's perseverance. But sadly, she succumbed to her injury. So she was one of the spirits that we were told to watch for. Cool. So we're walking around, we're talking, we're using instruments, and at one point there's like a spirit box that was set up, and it was just rifling off some white noise. And of course, walking into the room, we announced ourselves and asked if there's anybody present. And through the speaker, we got the name Anne. And I thought, oh, ooh. Hello, Anne. Ew, not the lightweights here. This is one of the heavy hitters in the jail. Okay. And that's all we got. She said her name was Anne. All right, cool. Fast forward another half hour or so. We were in a totally different part of the prison. It's actually death row, where prisoners would be in their last days. Ryan, I felt something touch my hand. I've never been physically contacted. And the creepiest part is I believe it was Anne, because imagine how you would hold dental floss, like gripped between your hands, like two hands.
Yeah.
It was like somebody was holding a piece of string, and from my wrist to the tip of my pinky, they ran something that felt like rope or string all the way down my hand.
Oh.
I jumped 10 feet. I yelled. Another group of investigators ran over. They thought I'd broken something. That was weird. That was heavy. So that, and there is one other story. And the problem with this other story is that it doesn't take place in a haunted area. It took place in my house. My house is clean. I know this for a fact. There are no ghosts in my home. But you know how they say if you peer into the darkness peers back?
Yeah.
So we had done 2 hunts back to back, 7 days apart, okay? And we were, my girlfriend and I were really, really starting to want to do these bigger, more involved hunts. 3 hours is great, but after you've done a couple of 3-hour sessions, you want to do 8, and then you want to do 12, So we were really getting into this. One night we were sitting in the living room watching a movie, and I kid you not, but there was a grown man's voice, very deep voice, that whispered very clearly the word hush.
Hush?
Yeah, yeah.
Hush.
We were watching a movie, we weren't talking. Hush, Hush, hush. And my girlfriend and I both 90-degree angled and looked at each other as if to say, did you hear that? And without speaking, we both knew that we both heard that. Why was there a grown man's voice? And I rewound the movie. It wasn't in the movie, man. We weren't talking. The movie was going. It wasn't in the movie. But not that something followed us, but like I said, you work at Pizza Hut. When you come home, you smell like pizza, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I kind of feel like sometimes there's things that notice you. So that was another creepy instance, but that was creepy because I wasn't in a haunted place. If I was in a haunted house, I would have been like, yeah, of course there's a ghost trying to spook me. But here in my house where nothing's ever happened,
So do you think how do you get rid of a spirit like that? You say something or
So my belief and most hunters' belief is that it's energy, right? You can neither create nor destroy energy. Energy simply is. So I think if you truly believe that there is something after you or looking in or whatever, it's a matter of dispelling that energy. It's a matter of displacing it, making it known. Intention goes a long way with stuff like this because people forget that it's people, I mean, if I drop dead tomorrow, would I turn into a rhinoceros just because I'm a ghost now? No, I'd still be me. My
Yeah.
consciousness, we assume, should remain intact. So it's just a matter of really being firm and, speaking to any other intruder. I mean, obviously, as a physical intruder, you wouldn't say, "Hey, get out of my house." But, it's a matter of saying, like, listen, you're not welcome here. It's not appreciated. This is my place, not yours. Scram. There are other ways to do it, other different belief systems. But at the end of the day, I don't really feel, and this is getting a little philosophical here. I don't really believe that backpackers are human or ever were human. If something's backpacking with you from a space, it didn't belong to that space. It's kind of transient, and you're gonna need some other needs there. You're gonna need some other means.
Well, what do you mean by backpackers?
So some people believe that sometimes things can follow you from a bad place, right?
Okay.
There are a lot of beliefs in the different cultures too, where, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I do believe that certain indigenous cultures feel that things like addiction come from a spiritually unhealthy place, unclean.
Okay.
So that, negative energy can cause you to, develop illness or develop addictions or, some kind of mental health issues. There are some cultures that feel that needs to be dispelled through other ways, but it's a transfer of energy.
Oh, cool. So, like, when you because you consider like a backpacker, does that mean where they were they didn't belong, so they're trying to find a place?
It could. They could. There's ghost stories about I forget the term for it, but basically they're people that pull over on desolate highways and offer this person who's sitting in the dark a ride, and the person will tell them to go to a specific address, and by the time they pull up to the address, they're like, "All right, you're home," and the person is no longer in their front seat. There's some ghosts that are kind of destination wise like that. It's a theory.
That's wild.
It's creepy, but again, it's really hard to prove that kind of stuff. So that's why it's a pseudoscience.
Yeah, I think that's so fascinating. Like, and who knows what's gonna happen? Like, your next ghost hunt. Do you have one planned or what?
Oh, absolutely. So I've gotten to the point now where my partner and I, we've kind of planned some solos. So we are independently hunting now.
Oh, nice.
So there's a spot that we've staked out in the French River. We've had a little bit of success, and we're hoping to go back. There's a couple more planned with Phantoms of Yore. Always really great sites. I think the next one that we'd like to hit up is I believe it's going to be in October, is the Mill of Kintail. Or not the Mill of Kintail, sorry. That's a great one, though. That lots of history there, really great. But I think Murney Tower. It's out in Kitchener.
Oh,
And
no.
then there's also, I think, outside of Ottawa, there's Lost Villages. Lost Villages is like a little pioneer town that they've put together. It's really super great. Their spots are even if you're just there for the history, it's just a lot of fun to learn and see like some of these really old buildings. We hunted the John Johnson Manor outside of Ottawa, and that's like one of the oldest buildings I think in Canada. Just neat, standing in a house that is hundreds of years old.
Yeah. Wow. Did you find anything there?
That one was really quiet, actually.
Okay.
It was that one was kind of like okay, well, we checked it out, but it's tricky. It's tricky because if there's other people hunting in the house, you're the third tour of the night. Who knows? Sometimes the energy tends to die down.
Yeah. I mean, they might be sleeping.
Well, or you could end up like there's one prison that we were in. One of the last people to pass away in that prison, sadly, was I think a 19-year-old inmate who committed suicide, and we were told that we would very easily be able to contact him and blah blah blah. So we were hunting, and we asked, we're like, we haven't seen any signs of this young man. He's like, and the, one of the organizers said, yeah, and you won't, because the tour before you has two 19-year-old girls in it. So guess where that spirit is right now. Yeah, remember, these are people at one point, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two 19-year-old girls on the tour before us were getting a lot of attention from a spirit that we think was the 19-year-old boy.
That's actually hilarious.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when we hunt in prisons, it's not usually the men that get the attention. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's funny.
It's wild, but if you're really serious about it, you got to look at it as they were people once. They're going to carry their habits into the afterlife.
Do you find like your passion with with the paranormal and you and like your creative side of tattooing, and like, do you find that it kind of overlaps sometimes, or it gives you inspiration for tattoos and stuff like that?
For sure. I mean, I'm always really inspired around Halloween, let me tell you. But I love tattooing. Like when I first started an apprenticeship, I was really all about like doing skulls and dragons every day, right? Like I just wanted to be the creepiest of the creepiest. Some of the guys I was looking up to were, that's all they were doing. They were doing, sacrilegious imagery and upside down crosses and creepy stuff. So every once in a while, my creativity bends a little to, the spookier, darker, maybe grungier designs. But I do find that there is a little bit of a parallel between tattooing and ghost hunting, and that's that the more you see, the more you experience, the more you're able to kind of do new things with that knowledge. With ghost hunting, I've learned things like heavy amounts of electromagnetic energy, which is radiating out your computer, your microwave, your television, anything electronic, right? Electromagnetic waves in large quantities can cause a sense of disorientation, right? So you're like, okay, well then maybe when I'm in this basement and I'm feeling spooked out, it's because there's tons of faulty wiring and I'm actually just feeling that. Same thing with tattooing, like, okay, I'm looking at this guy whose work is really inspiring. Why am I inspired by it? And then you start to see like, oh wait, the way they're using their line weight, or different shades and different like muted colors, say, that's how they're getting to the impression and the point of view. And so sometimes the more you see, the more you learn, the more you discover, the more your creativity or your sense of acceptance or the way you hunt, it changes just like the way you tattoo.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool that you're able to find like a parallel between two of your biggest passions, right? And one probably feeds the other, right? And helps, and vice versa too. And like having that energy, right? And I wanted to kind of transition to more like your energy, and you're like, for me, I know you, and every time I see you, you always have that positive energy, the good uplifting energy, and like where does that come from? You think?
Well, it comes from a necessity, right?
Yeah.
Because I have been in some dark spots. I have been through, rough waters, just like everybody else. I'm a Leo. Anybody who knows anything about the zodiac, I'd be like, of course this guy's on camera talking his ass off. Fucking Leo.
I'm a Leo too.
Oh, hey, see? Good people find each other, man. Yeah, we love big. We're passionate. We're gonna be hard-headed, but we're determined, and we're loyal to the causes that we adhere to. So, that taste of positivity, I find when you first get that true hit, like after your childhood has been ruined by growing up. That sense of innocence is right out the window, and you're like, wait a minute, I gotta make a living and pay taxes and do stuff I don't want to, like mow the lawn. Fuck. After your will is crushed and trampled, I find at one point there's just that little taste of true positivity and a renewal for that youthful happiness. And once you get it, man, again, it spreads and you want more, and you become addicted to this. Hey, I can feel like this all the time. Not 100% of the time, but even through the darker times, I can take the time to mourn whatever I'm going through, and then I can come back. There's an old saying that to be destroyed is to be renewed.
Yeah.
It takes disaster to learn a lesson. That's a Rancid lyric. I'm not taking that as a personal quote, but that's a Rancid lyric. It takes disaster to learn a lesson. Tearing everything down means building everything back up. And that level of positivity, and especially for Leos, building something, creating something, that's where we're meant to be, right? We're born leaders. So creating something just feels good. And whether creating is, creating a positive atmosphere for a client, or, redecorating a new tattoo shop, or coming up with new concepts for clothing, you're creating. And it just, once you really get a good taste for that, you're hooked, and it just becomes a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And I think that's such a great thing. It's like sometimes things gotta be torn down to get built back up, right? And we go through all, we fall down. It's not about how many times we fall down, it's how many times we fall down and we get back up, right? And like, who are some of like your influences, like the key people in your life that kind of help you grounded and shape values of like who you are today?
I'm surrounded, like, I don't like using the term lucky, because luck is what happens when preparedness and opportunity meet. Okay. So, but for lack of a better term, I'm lucky. I know I've caused these people to surround me, but I still feel very blessed. One of the most recent, acquisitions in my life, people coming to me, is a client that, I hope you won't mind that I'm dropping her name, but her name is Barb, and she, wow, really made me feel good about a lot of my more weirdo thoughts. She has really helped me open up to see, like, no, it's cool. My girlfriend is great. Melody, like, I've never had a relationship where, like, and I've been with a lot of great women. I'm not knocking any of them, but spiritually, I've never had somebody come at me and better me spiritually in a relationship. So I'm very thankful for her being here. My friend Melanie, somebody who really helped me through some dark times, and again showed me that, like, you may be an outsider, but there's always somebody willing to claim you as one of theirs. You could be, the most oddball fucker out there. There are other oddball fuckers who are like, we meet at 4:00 on Tuesdays. Come on in, we got coffee. So there's that. That's on my personal, my personal life. As far as business, man, I know anybody who's really into tattooing has probably watched fucking Ink Master. I'm not gonna knock it, but the media is what the media is. But I met a guy who was an Ink Master before. I met him before this. His name is Robbie Ripoll. Holy shit, dude! I met him in person once, and that was just like fucking gotta be like 14 years ago. I met him at a convention. Didn't know him for a hole in the wall. Wasn't on any of the TV shows, and I was walking with a buddy who I was about to tattoo to a stencil station, and we walked by this guy's booth, and he's just like, "Hey man, what's going on?" I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And we talked to him. He's like, "So what are you guys doing today?" And I said, "Oh, I'm about to tattoo my buddy's hand. This great big snail with a skull and the shell." He's like, "Dude, that's a cool tattoo. You need to come back and show me this when it's done." I was like, "Wow, did somebody just stop and give a crap about me?" So I've been following him since I found out he was going on Ink Master. I was like, oh wow, okay. He did a couple of seasons, but he started a movement called the I'm Rad movement, and dude, through COVID, that was huge. Like, it was great to hear from Robbie. He would like send me videos, like wishing me happy birthday. I met him once. That was 14 years ago. I think the last time I talked to him was like 2-3 weeks ago. And it was just like hey man, hope things are going good. He's out in, I think it's Melbourne, Florida. You know, he had a baby not too long ago. I was just like, hey, by the way, you're great and I fucking love you. And he sent it back, you know, little hearts and everything. Just a solid dude. And knowing that guy is not only in my industry, but on this planet,
Yeah.
sleep better at night, man. So those people, like, weird as hell, random meetings, never would have guessed. Dude was just solid. So those are the kind of people that keep me going.
So did you go back and show him the tattoo after?
Yeah, and he was like, just in awe. And he's a good tattoo artist. And I mean, I know I'm hard on myself, but I'm like, you know, usually I'm like, yeah, you know, I did all right. My client's happy. But that one I was really proud of, and my client was really proud. Well, my client, he's a friend of mine. He's a coworker, and he was happy with it. And like all three of us were just like high-fiving each other. It wasn't about like, oh my God, guys, look at the great tattoo I did. And everyone's like, oh God, you're so good. It was just like, oh, I really like that. I really like that. I really like that.
It was like a moment from the three of you.
Yeah. And I mean, that moment lasted forever, you know?
Yeah, I was just about to say that moment linked you guys forever, and you guys are still friends 14 years later.
It's just, you know, random. And like sometimes I'll go a couple months without talking to him, and sometimes when I do talk to him, it's just a blur. But those are the people, you know, where you can just wake up one morning and be like, it's Monday, you know, or I gotta mow the lawn and blah blah blah, and then you wake up and you see this message that says, hey, from halfway across the world, you know, hope your day's going well. How hard is it to say, I hope your day's going well? Turns it right around.
Yeah. And I think it takes 2 seconds to respond to a message, or it takes 2 seconds to send a message to you, right? And it just goes to show that you're thinking about that person. And I think those are like the spread. I have some friends like that, like you don't hear from them for a while, and then when you see them in person or you get a message from them, it's like you don't skip a beat, you know. It's like yeah, this guy is thinking about me, like I'm at it. And I think if people would do that a little bit more, I think it would definitely make the world a truly better place.
I agree.
Like, when talking about that kind of stuff, like when thinking about like good moments and great things about life, when it's all said and done, like what would you like to be remembered for?
Wow. I've always tried, well, last couple of years anyways, I've tried to, you know, squash my ego. So I feel guilty answering that question a little bit. Because, well, I would like to be remembered. Yeah, am I really any different than any person on earth? I don't really think so. But growing up in the 80s, the people I really, really didn't even know that I idolized were people like Jim Henson, okay, like Walt Disney. These were storytellers. I love these stories. Stories fueled, you know, my imagination. They fueled my youth. And I think at the end of the day, that's what I love about tattooing. And that's how I want to be remembered. You know, you remember The Sandlot, the movie The Sandlot, the kid playing baseball and stuff. So The Sandlot, I mean, it wasn't a horror movie, so what the hell did I care? Sorry, I'm being offered grilled cheese here. Do you want me to? Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. So The Sandlot, you know, ends, and I'm sorry to anybody who hasn't watched the movie. Here comes some spoilers. You know, The Sandlot ends with the kids who are like so afraid of that guy next door, and I think it's James Earl Jones or something like that. And they show up, and it turns out that like he's this big time baseball Hall of Famer, and they're like, holy crap, this guy is one of the guys that we idolized, and we didn't even know. You know, we thought he had a big monster dog who was going to eat us. I like that. You know, I've got dude. You want to do a weird podcast? I'll take you around my house. there's some weird crap going on in here. Okay, I have been to Carney yard sale. Let that sink in. I'm sitting in front of a prayer bench. Anyways, I'd love to be, the guy, the old man at the end of the street in the cul-de-sac that the kids all whisper about, like, yo, I hear he's got a mermaid in his bathtub. I'm like, no, man. I heard that guy studied in Japan. He's actually a fucking ninja. And the other kid's like, no. I heard he's a level 37 wizard. He'll turn you into a frog if you go get your frisbee on his front lawn, right? I kind of want to be that guy. I want to be a little bit of a like a weird, creepy urban myth. I want to be Bigfoot.
But it exists.
That's a bag of snakes you don't want to get into, dude. I've read some weird stuff. I feel like there's a possibility, but dude, I've read stuff that people think that Bigfoot is actually fucking an interdimensional being, and that's why we can't catch him. What? Anyways, totally different podcast. But in tattooing, I feel like I kind of can be that too, because I have so many people that that walk up to me. I'm sorry, I don't recognize everybody. I see so many people, and some people I've seen in years, and they're like, "Dude, do you remember this? You remember you told me this story about blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, I told you that story." I think through tattooing, I that's how I'll be remembered, and I obviously just really want to be remembered as somebody worth remembering. Somebody that was not remembered like, oh yeah, that guy used to let his dog shit on my lawn. I don't want to be remembered like, I don't want to be like that cranky old dude at the end of the road who like yell every time our football landed on his driveway. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I'd like to be remembered for what I've done properly. Nobody wants to be remembered for being the guy on YouTube who picked a fight at a political rally. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So I that's the mark I'd like to leave here, because what I've come to realize is that if I get smoked by a truck tomorrow and die, my tattoos will outlive me. And if I live to be, the ripe old age of 100, someday my full-grown daughter will run into somebody and say, "Hey, nice tattoo," and they'll say, "Yeah, there's a guy named Hugh Bastard that did it," and she'll go, "Holy fuck, that's my dad." That tugs at your heartstrings, man. And like, I want to leave a legacy that, my kid will be like, yeah, my old man was nuts. We grew up with some super weirdo crap in the house, but I think everybody wants to be appreciated. I don't want to be put on a pedestal. I don't want to be known for anything I didn't do. I just want to be remembered by the people that cared about me the most. But the random public, if even I can get one person to remember me and I know I've told some real humdingers at the shop. I've got some stories, and some people, that's what they remember, is the story that you tell, that they're like, that guy lived that, man.
And I think that's what it's all about, right? I think it's important to share your story, and that's how you connect to people. And when you were talking about, like, sometimes you meet people and you don't remember, and that happens to me all the time. Like, I introduce myself because I don't know if people know me. Like, I'm Ryan. Like, oh, I've been to your store before. It's like, oh shit.
Oh man. Like, some people you remember their shirt size, and other people you're like, listen, you're just as important to me. You got to help me, okay? I haven't eaten yet today. I don't sleep much because I'm a business owner.
And that happens though. But like, and sometimes like, it's funny because I remember everything about someone, like everything about their life, but sometimes I don't remember their name, And then it's like too late to ask what their name is. It's like,
oh, dude, I worked at one shop. There's this guy, really cool. I believe his name is Justin. I hope he doesn't mind me telling the story. Because I do think eventually we got close enough that we told him this. We're like, dude, like, we see so many people, like, we knew you. He had tattoos of lions, both his arms, his ribs. And we're like, he used to book you as lion guy. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, we just kept forgetting to ask your name, and you were fucking lion guy for the longest time. So yeah, Justin Lion Guy, good people, was a great client, not my client, mind you, but he was a client at a shop that I worked at. And I remember he laughed. He's like, yo, I'll lean into that. But he was a good guy. But yeah, that's the reality of it, man. Like sometimes you're lion guy. I don't know what to tell you.
What a good nickname, Lion Guy.
Definitely one of the better ones. Let me tell you, there's a few clients that,
I think
especially at that show.
To finish off this whole thing, I could probably go on for hours with you. We'll have to do another podcast for sure.
Dude, this is an honor. Anytime.
And get into the other stories.
Yeah, like I said, I really should have written this stuff down. I would have had a means to retire.
And when you were talking about that too, is like you say, you read biographies about other tattoo artists. It'd be cool for you to like sit down and write your own book one day, and having younger tattoo artists read about you, which would be pretty cool.
If I can remember enough at this point to put in a book, I would gladly do it. But I think it would mostly just be cuss words. So.
But to finish this off, I wanted to ask, like, do you have like one piece of advice, or like the younger generation, or maybe your younger self, that you would like to know when you were growing up, and something that would have helped you that you know today?
Well, if there was any advice that I could go back in time and tell myself, it would have been, first of all, take better care of your hair, because it's not always going to fucking be there. But you know what? Honestly, I think I would have taught my younger self just don't be scared. You cannot let fear rule you. It will stop you in life, and it will slow you down. I'm still learning to cope with fears and anxieties and phobias. I'm in an industry that's basically asking to be validated. If you're not patting me on the head and telling me that I did a good job, then I'm kind of like, where am I with you? Like, do you like me? Do you not like me? Are you coming back? Like, and I think anybody who's looking to get into tattooing, segueing to that, hold on to your self-esteem and hold on to your self-worth, to who you believe yourself to be. Don't be afraid to ask yourself, is this really who I am? Be honest with yourself, because along the way, this industry can change you, and not for the better. So keep on your path. Find that group of people that will help you, elevate you, and keep you in check, because there's a lot of glamour in this industry, and not everything that glitters is gold. So be true to yourself, be true to your clients, be true to the art. The one thing that I know to be 100% true is that if you take care of tattooing, it will take care of you, no matter what. It has never left me hungry. It has never left me homeless.
And I think that's a good thing, a good metaphor for any industry, right? If you take care of the industry will take care of you. And I think it's a lot about respect. In business, it's all about respect and building relationships, but it's about expecting the art, the craft of tattooing in your case, or whether it is respect the industry, right? And I think the way you treat people, the products that I offer, how it makes people feel, and stay true to that. Remember why you started something, And
yes.
So when things get hard, maybe like for me, for example, like remember why I started, because sometimes like you have bad days I shouldn't say bad days, it's like bad moments in those days, because there's bad moments, but there's never any bad days,
Love that. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
But I always say like sometimes stuff happens, like why am I doing this? And then I remember all of the amazing things that I've been able to do, right? And then that kind of keeps me going, right? It's about like falling in love with the process and not the destination, and the everyday grind, falling in love with that rather than trying to reach a goal. Because if you try to only focus on the end goal, you won't be fit if we do get there.
You won't enjoy the journey.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know I get a lot of people that ask me why it's called Studio 613. I actually had another name for the studio, and My first landlord kind of disagreed with it, so I had to change it. I had 24 hours to change the name, and that's what I did. I sat there and I asked myself, what am I doing this for? What is when I hit that wall and when I say, "Crap, man, this is so hard and I don't know if I can make it." What is it that's going to remind me of my mission statement? And that's why it's called Studio 613, because at the time I was married to a wonderful, wonderful person who I'm still very close to this day. We share a daughter. I called it Studio 613 because 613 was my wedding date. I was married on Friday the 13th of June. So I knew that every time I looked at that sign, I knew like, this is the business that will buy the house to build the home. This is the reason I'm getting out of bed, because it's not just about making money or, flashy tattoos on my Instagram. It's about the people that it's taking care of. This business is my baby, and it will eventually leave a legacy. And so that's where 613. Sadly, now that I'm divorced, 613 is actually the date of my vasectomy. That was not planned. So there's a little bit of too much information for the viewers. But yeah, absolutely. Stay true to your mission statement, and yeah, like you said. But that's what I love about you, man. And I love about your product is, it's not hard for anybody who takes even half a second to glance at what you do, how you do it, and the person that you are, and what you're really doing when you're giving them these products. Brother, it's an inspiration, and I really must say, I walked into your store, like you said in the beginning, to help you out, because not only do I believe that a business owners should look out for each other, but you're a fucking quality person, dude, and I couldn't think of a better organization or person or mission to help support. I really have always kind of been very, very, very blown away by what you do and who you are and how you do it too, man. This podcast thing, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, it's the start of something, but this whole podcast with you, I laughed and I got emotional and a little bit of everything. So yeah, it's been amazing.
And that's what life is, right? It's a big fucking party platter.
and I love like the authenticity of it, like the F-bombs and everything.
Yeah, sorry about that. I told myself I'd try to limit them, but
And it was dark, but it was funny and it was inspirational and everything. So Marty, I love you very, very much.
I love you too.
This is a friendship that will last a lifetime, and I can't wait to do more for sure.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you need me, absolutely anything at all, you let me.
Right?
I will, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan. Thank you very much. And thank you for what you do for the community.
Likewise, buddy.